YH8 Racing is P1. Chris Butt in Clay Hill is P4. Best lap is a 1:13.269. YH8 Racing is first. Todd in Old Hall Corner is third. Best lap is a 1:12.787. Johnny Prince from New Zealand in Clay Hill is fifth on standards. Best lap is a 3:32.181. Chris Butt is P4. The Race Dictator in Lodge Corner is second. Johnny Prince in Denton's is fifth on standards. Todd from New Zealand is P3. Best lap is a 1:12.725. Johnny Prince in Water Tower is P5 on standards. YH8 Racing is first. Johnny Prince is fifth. Chris Butt in Clay Hill is fourth, driving a 5:10. Best lap is a 1:13.134. The Race Dictator in Warwick Bridge is second. YH8 Racing is P1. Johnny Prince from New Zealand in Dentons is P5. Best lap is a 1:13.888. Todd in Druid's Corner is P3 on standards. Chris Butt in Lodge Corner is P4. Todd is P3. That Canadian guy from Canada is P6 on standards. YH8 Racing is first. Chris Butt in Hislops is P4. YH8 Racing in Druid's Corner is P1. Johnny Prince is P5. YH8 Racing in Dentons is P1. That Canadian guy is 6th. Johnny Prince is P5. Chris Butt is P4. Todd from New Zealand in Hislops is P3. YH8 Racing is P1. Johnny Prince from New Zealand in Druid's Corner is P5. Todd is P3 on standards. Johnny Prince is 5th. Chris Butt in Druid's Corner is P4 driving a 510. The Race Dictator is P2. Todd in Hislops is P3. YH8 Racing in Clay Hill is P1. Todd in Lodge Corner is P3. The Race Dictator in Old Hall Corner is P2. Chris Butt is P5 on standards. Todd from New Zealand in Druid's Corner is P3. Chris Butt in Lodge Corner is P5. YH8 Racing is P1 on standards. That Canadian guy from Canada is 4th. Best lap is a 1:12.890. Johnny Prince in Knickersbrook is 6th. Best lap is a 1:13.869. YH8 Racing is P1. Todd is third. Chris Bunnett is P5 on standards. Johnny Prince in Hislops is P6. The race dictator in Old Hall Corner is second, driving a 510. Johnny Prince from New Zealand in Lodge Corner is sixth. The race dictator in Druids Corner is second. Johnny Prince is sixth. Chris Bunnett in Old Hall Corner is P5. The race dictator is P2. Chris Bunnett in Druids Corner is P5. Wiremew in Denton's is P7 on standards. Johnny Prince in Warwick Bridge is P6. Chris Bunnett is fifth. YH8 Racing in Hislops is P1 on standards. Chris Bunnett is fifth. Johnny Prince in Lodge Corner is 6th. Best lap is a 1:13.579. Todd is P3. YH8 Racing is P1. That Canadian guy in Old Hall Corner is P4. Todd in Deer Leap is P3. Chris Butt in Druids Corner is 5th. Best lap is a 1:13.121. Todd in Clay Hill is 3rd. Best lap is a 1:12.283. YH8 Racing in Lodge Corner is P2. Todd from New Zealand is 3rd. Wyremew in Knickersbrook is 7th. Best lap is a 1:14.489. Todd is 3rd. That Canadian guy in Clay Hill is P4. The qualification session is at Oulton Park in Cheshire, Great Britain. That Canadian guy from Canada is P1 on standards. YH8 Racing is 3rd on standards. Todd from New Zealand in Hislops is 4th on standards. Chris Butt from New Zealand is 6th on standards driving a Datsun 510. YH8 Racing in Deer Leap is P2. The Race Dictator from New Zealand in Old Hall Corner is P1 on standards driving a Datsun 510. The Race Dictator is up 4.37 in Knickersbrook. Ten minutes remaining in the session. The Race Dictator is up 4.61 in Warwick Bridge. The Race Dictator improved is P1 with a 112.272. Todd is P3. Todd improved is P2 with a 112.664. .392 off pole. Chris Butt is P7 driving a 510. Chris Butt improved is P5 with a 114.991. 2.719 off pole. Todd in Hislops is second up 0.33. Todd is up 0.26 in Druids Corner. The Race Dictator is P1. The Race Dictator is provisional pole with a 111.967. YH8 Racing in Lodge Corner is 6th. That Canadian guy is 7th. That Canadian guy improved is P3 with a 113.231. 1.264 off pole. YH8 Racing is P7 up 0.74. YH8 Racing is up 0.86 in Druids Corner. YH8 Racing improved is P2 with a 112.307. .340 off pole. YH8 Racing is up 0.07 in Dentons. Wiremu in Hislops is P6 up 0.51 on standards. Todd is P3 up 0.32. Wiremu in Lodge corner is P6 up 0.20. Wiremu improved his fourth with a 113.182. 1.215 off pole. Todd in Hislops is P3 up 0.18. Chris Butt from New Zealand is 6th. Five minutes remaining in the session. Chris Butt is up 0.26 in Clay Hill. That Canadian guy is P4 up 0.13. The race dictator in Hislops is first up 0.18. Chris Butt is P6 driving a 510. Todd is P3 up 0.21. Todd is up 0.44 in Warwick Bridge. Chris Butt in Lodge corner is P6 on standards. Chris Butt is up 0.26 in Hislops. That Canadian guy in Hislops is P4 up 0.12. Johnny Prince from New Zealand is P7 up 0.15 on standards. That Canadian guy is P4 up 0.28. Wiremu is P5. Best lap is a 113.182. 1.215 off pole. Todd in Old Hall corner is P3. Chris Butt is P6 up 0.11. Johnny Prince is P7 on standards. Best lap is a 113.543. 1.576 off pole. Chris Butt is P6. Best lap is a 1:13.206. 1.239 off pole. Chris Butt is up 0.48 in Hislops. The qualifying session is now in overtime. Wyremew in Druids Corner is P5 up 0.10. That Canadian guy is fourth. Best lap is a 1:13.112. 1.145 off pole. That Canadian guy is up 0.09 in Lodge Corner. YH8 Racing is second. Best lap is a 1:12.307. 0.340 off pole. Broadcast bot is P17 on standards. The race session is at Oulton Park in Cheshire, Great Britain. The race dictator is P1. YH8 Racing is second on standards. Todd from New Zealand is third on standards. 20 minutes remaining in the session. Race start. The race dictator from New Zealand is second on standards, driving a Datsun 510. Wyremew in Hislops is P3 on standards. The race dictator is P2. The race dictator is now first. Wyremew is second. That Canadian guy from Canada in Deer Leap is P4 on standards. That Canadian guy passed Chris Butt for P3. Wyremew in Denton's on lap 2 is second, 0.9 behind the race dictator. Todd in Hislops is P4, 0.4 ahead of that Canadian guy. Wiremew in Druid's corner is P2, 0.5 behind the race dictator. Chris Butt from New Zealand is 4th on standards driving a Datsun 510, 0.4 behind Todd. YH8 Racing is 6th on standards, 0.4 behind that Canadian guy. YH8 Racing is now 5th. Chris Butt is P4, 0.8 behind Todd. That Canadian guy in Hislops is 7th, 2.1 behind Johnny Prince. Johnny Prince was 10.5 faster last lap. Chris Butt in Druid's corner is P4, 0.9 behind Todd. Todd was 1.3 faster last lap. Wiremew is 2nd on standards, 3.4 ahead of Todd. That Canadian guy is P7, 3.0 behind Johnny Prince. Johnny Prince was 1.1 faster last lap. That Canadian guy is now P6. Todd from New Zealand in Clayhill is 3rd, 2.7 behind Wiremew. Todd was 0.9 faster last lap. Wiremew is P2, 3.4 behind the race dictator. The race dictator was 1.5 faster last lap. "15 minutes remaining in the session. Johnny Prince from New Zealand in Lodge corner is P5 on standards, 1.0 behind YH8 Racing. Todd is 3rd, 2.5 behind Wiremew. Johnny Prince in Hislops is 5th, 0.4 behind YH8 Racing. Johnny Prince was 4.0 faster last lap. Todd is 3rd. Best lap is a 1:12.780. 0.629 off the fastest lap. Johnny Prince in Lodge corner is P5, 1.8 behind YH8 Racing. Todd is 3rd on standards, 1.0 behind Wiremew. Johnny Prince is P5, 1.9 behind YH8 Racing. Todd in Druid's Corner is P3 on standards, 0.3 behind Wiremew. Todd was 2.0 faster last lap. Johnny Prince is 5th, 1.9 behind YH8 Racing. YH8 Racing was 1.1 faster last lap. Todd on lap 7 is 3rd, 0.2 behind Wiremew. Todd passed Wiremew for 2nd. Johnny Prince in Denton's is 5th, 1.0 behind Wiremew. Wiremew in Clay Hill on lap 7 is P4, 1.2 ahead of Johnny Prince. Johnny Prince is 5th. Best lap is a 1:13.431. 1.280 off the fastest lap. Johnny Prince passed Wiremew for P4. Wiremew is 4th, 0.3 behind Johnny Prince. That Canadian guy from Canada in Old Hall Corner is 6th, 1.1 behind YH8 Racing. That Canadian guy was 4.9 faster last lap. Johnny Prince in Hislops is P4, 0.7 behind Wiremew. Johnny Prince was 10.2 faster last lap. YH8 Racing in Clay Hill is 5th, 0.5 behind Johnny Prince. Chris Butt from New Zealand is 7th, 1.0 behind YH8 Racing. Chris Butt passed YH8 Racing for P6. 10 minutes remaining in the session. That Canadian guy from Canada in Deerleaf is P5, 0.3 behind Johnny Prince. Chris Butt is 6th, 2.5 ahead of YH8 Racing. Johnny Prince is 5th on standards, 0.8 ahead of Chris Butt. Chris Butt was 3.7 faster last lap. Chris Butt in Water Tower is 6th, 0.4 behind Johnny Prince. Chris Butt was 3.7 faster last lap. Wiremew on lap 9 is 4th, 0.4 ahead of Johnny Prince. Johnny Prince from New Zealand is 5th, 0.6 behind Wiremew. Wiremew in Denton's is P4, 0.5 behind that Canadian guy. Johnny Prince is 5th. Wyremew in Druid's Corner is 4th. Best lap is a 1:13.297. 1.146 off the fastest lap. Wyremew is now P3. Johnny Prince in Lodge Corner is 4th, 1.3 behind Wyremew. Johnny Prince was 2.3 faster last lap. Chris Butt is 5th driving a Datsun 510, 2.6 behind Johnny Prince. Johnny Prince was 1.8 faster last lap. YH8 Racing in Hislops is P6, 1.0 behind Chris Butt. YH8 Racing is now P5. Chris Butt exiting pits on standards. Johnny Prince in Druid's Corner is 4th, 3.2 behind Wyremew. YH8 Racing in Lodge Corner is P5. Chris Butt on lap 11 is 7th, 0.9 behind that Canadian guy. That Canadian guy is 7th, 0.7 behind Chris Butt. Johnny Prince in Druid's Corner is 4th on standards, 4.0 behind Wyremew. That Canadian guy is 7th, 1.0 behind Chris Butt. 5 minutes remaining in the session. That Canadian guy passed Chris Butt for P6. Chris Butt from New Zealand in Clayhill is P7, 1.2 behind that Canadian guy. That Canadian guy was 14.6 faster last lap. YH8 Racing in Hislops is 5th. Best lap is a 1:12.151. Chris Butt is P7, 1.6 behind that Canadian guy. Johnny Prince from New Zealand is 4th, 1.4 behind Wyremew. Chris Butt in Clayhill is P7 driving a 510, 0.8 behind that Canadian guy. That Canadian guy was 2.8 faster last lap. Johnny Prince from New Zealand in Hislops is 4th, 0.7 behind Wyremew. Wyremu in Clayhill is 4th, 0.6 behind Johnny Prince. Chris Butt is 7th, 0.3 behind that Canadian guy. Wyremu on lap 14 is P4, 0.7 behind Johnny Prince. Wyremu passed Johnny Prince for P3. YH8 Racing in Old Hall Corner is P4, 0.6 behind Wyremu. Johnny Prince is P5, 0.9 behind YH8 Racing. Wyremu on lap 15 is 4th, 0.3 ahead of Johnny Prince. Johnny Prince in Druids Corner is 5th, 0.5 behind Wyremu. Wyremu in Deer Leap is 4th, 1.2 behind YH8 Racing. Johnny Prince on lap 16 is P5, 1.8 behind Wyremu. Johnny Prince passed Wyremu for P4. Wyremu in Knickersbrook is 5th on standards, 1.8 behind Johnny Prince. Johnny Prince is 4th on standards, 1.3 ahead of Wyremu. Wyremu on lap 16 is 5th, 1.3 behind Johnny Prince. The leader has just finished the race. The race dictator finished first. Chris Butt finished P6. Todd finished second. That Canadian guy finished P7. Johnny Prince finished P3. Wyremu finished P4. YH8 Racing finished 5th. Broadcast bot is P8. The race session is at Oulton Park in Cheshire, Great Britain. Chris Butt from New Zealand is P1 on standards driving a Datsun 510. YH8 Racing is P2 on standards. That Canadian guy entering the pits is 16th. 20 minutes remaining in the session. Race start. YH8 Racing passed Chris Butt for P1. Johnny Prince from New Zealand is second on standards. Chris Butt in Hislops is P3. Chris Butt is now second. That Canadian guy exiting pits on standards. Todd from New Zealand is third on standards. Todd lost P4 to the race dictator. Chris Butt in Lodge Corner is second. The race dictator from New Zealand is fourth on standards driving a Datsun 510. The race dictator passed YH8 Racing for third. Chris Butt is P2 driving a 510, 0.9 behind Johnny Prince. Todd is fifth, 0.9 behind YH8 Racing. Chris Butt in Druid's Corner is P2, 0.4 behind Johnny Prince. The race dictator in Lodge Corner is third, 0.6 behind Chris Butt. Chris Butt in Old Hall Corner is P2. Best lap is a 1:13.022. 0.973 off the fastest lap. The race dictator is P3 on standards, 0.8 behind Chris Butt. The race dictator is now P1. Chris Butt is third, 0.6 behind YH8 Racing. Chris Butt lost P3 to Todd. Todd in Druid's Corner is third, 1.0 behind YH8 Racing. Chris Butt from New Zealand is 4th, 3.0 behind Todd. Chris Butt was 1.6 faster last lap. YH8 Racing is 3rd, 0.1 behind Todd. YH8 Racing passed Todd for 2nd. Todd in Hislops is 3rd, 0.1 behind YH8 Racing. Todd passed YH8 Racing for P2. YH8 Racing in Clayhill is 3rd, 0.7 behind Todd. That Canadian guy from Canada is P6 on standards, 3.6 behind Chris Butt. 15 minutes remaining in the session. Johnny Prince in Deer Leap on lap 4 is 3rd, 0.9 behind YH8 Racing. YH8 Racing is P3 battling Johnny Prince. That Canadian guy is 6th on standards, 4.0 behind Chris Butt. YH8 Racing is P3, 0.3 behind Johnny Prince. That Canadian guy in Druid's Corner is 6th, 4.0 behind Chris Butt. That Canadian guy was 19.2 faster last lap. YH8 Racing in Old Hall Corner is 3rd, 0.4 behind Johnny Prince. Chris Butt is 5th, 3.8 behind Todd. YH8 Racing is 3rd, 0.3 behind Johnny Prince. Johnny Prince is P3 battling YH8 Racing. Johnny Prince passed YH8 Racing for 2nd. YH8 Racing is P3. Best lap is a 1:13.050. 1.001 off the fastest lap. Chris Butt in Old Hall Corner is 5th, 3.7 behind Todd. YH8 Racing in Clayhill is P3, 1.5 behind Johnny Prince. Todd is P4. YH8 Racing is third, 2.0 ahead of Todd. Todd from New Zealand is fourth, 1.6 behind YH8 Racing. YH8 Racing is third on standards, 1.4 ahead of Todd. Ten minutes remaining in the session. Todd in Lodge Corner is fourth, 1.7 behind YH8 Racing. YH8 Racing is third, 1.8 ahead of Todd. Todd from New Zealand is fourth, 2.1 behind YH8 Racing. YH8 Racing is P3 on standards, 1.8 behind Johnny Prince. YH8 Racing was 3.3 faster last lap. Todd in Deer Leap is P4, 2.0 behind YH8 Racing. YH8 Racing is P3, 0.6 behind Johnny Prince. Johnny Prince is P3 battling YH8 Racing. Johnny Prince lost P3 to Todd. Todd in Druid's Corner is P3, 1.9 behind YH8 Racing. Todd lost P3 to Johnny Prince. That Canadian guy in Warwick Bridge is fifth, 3.0 behind Todd. Todd was 0.9 faster last lap. Todd on lap 11 is fourth, 2.5 ahead of that Canadian guy. That Canadian guy from Canada is P5, 1.7 behind Todd. Todd from New Zealand in Water Tower is fourth, 1.9 ahead of that Canadian guy. That Canadian guy was 9.4 faster last lap. That Canadian guy in Lodge Corner is fifth, 1.9 behind Todd. Todd is 4th, 1.7 ahead of that Canadian guy. That Canadian guy is 5th on standards, 1.3 behind Todd. Johnny Prince on lap 12 is P3, 3.4 behind YH8 Racing. 5 minutes remaining in the session. That Canadian guy in Deer Leap is P5, 1.5 behind Todd. Johnny Prince is 3rd, 2.8 behind YH8 Racing. That Canadian guy in Clay Hill is P5, 1.8 behind Todd. Johnny Prince on lap 13 is P3, 0.7 behind YH8 Racing. Johnny Prince was 3.1 faster last lap. That Canadian guy is P5, 2.1 behind Todd. Johnny Prince in Dentons is P3 on standards, 0.6 behind YH8 Racing. Johnny Prince is now 2nd. YH8 Racing is 5th, 1.9 behind that Canadian guy. That Canadian guy was 3.6 faster last lap. Todd in Warwick Bridge on lap 14 is 3rd, 2.3 behind Johnny Prince. Todd was 1.7 faster last lap. That Canadian guy in Lodge Corner is P5, 4.5 behind YH8 Racing. That Canadian guy was 3.6 faster last lap. Todd from New Zealand is 3rd, 1.2 behind Johnny Prince. That Canadian guy is 5th. Best lap is a 1:12.803. 0.941 off the fastest lap. Chris Butt from New Zealand is P6, 0.7 behind that Canadian guy. That Canadian guy in Druid's Corner is 6th. Todd in Denton's is P3. Best lap is a 112.494. 0.632 off the fastest lap. Chris Butt is 5th, 3.0 behind YH8 Racing. Todd is 3rd, 0.7 behind Johnny Prince. Chris Butt is P5 driving a 510, 2.9 behind YH8 Racing. The leader has just finished the race. The race dictator finished P1. That Canadian guy finished 6th. Todd is P2. Todd finished 2nd. Johnny Prince finished 3rd. Chris Butt is 4th. Chris Butt finished 4th. YH8 Racing finished 5th.